The Great Gatsby, Through My Eyes, an ESL cinematic retelling inspired by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Prologue. The summer I learned about beautiful lies. That summer, I didn't go to Long Island to fall in love, or to chase money, or to crash parties I wasn't invited to. I went there because I was tired. New York in 1922 was loud, jazz pouring from windows, bootleg liquor in back rooms, men trying to forget the war, and women trying to forget they'd ever waited. Everyone was moving fast, and I felt slow. I wanted water, quiet, and maybe a chance to think about who I was becoming. So I rented a small house in West Egg. West Egg wasn't the elegant side. It was the side for people who had just become rich, people who still said, "Look what I bought," people who still wore their money too loudly. Across the bay was East Egg, where people didn't show you their money, they simply were their money. And right next to my small, honest little place was a mansion. Not a big house, a mansion. Lit at night like a floating palace, with lawns as smooth as water, with a tower that didn't need to be there but was there because beauty in 1922 didn't need a reason. I used to stand on my porch at dusk and watch that house wake up. Servants moving about. Music warming up. Cars arriving with people who laughed before they got out. And every time I thought, who lives like that? Later, I learned the answer, a man in love with a dream. That summer, I learned something no one told me when I was younger. Sometimes love isn't love, it's a beautiful lie we keep polishing, even after the truth has already walked away. That was the summer of Gatsby. And I was the witness. Scene 1, the house next to mine. I should tell you about my house first. It was square, modest, with a porch big enough for one chair and a newspaper. It faced the bay, and on quiet mornings I could hear the little slap of water against the shore. It wasn't much, but it was mine for that summer. But when you live next to a palace, your house becomes a footnote. Gatsby's mansion rose out of the lawn like a challenge to the sky, marble steps, balconies, a tower, windows that promised music. At night, the whole place glowed the way ships glow out at sea. The strangest part, though, was this: for all the music, I seldom saw the owner. People in West Egg loved talking about him. Gatsby? Oh, sure, I've been to his parties. I heard he's a German spy. No, he killed a man. He's the nephew of someone royal. He owns drugstores. He's a bootlegger. He's an Oxford man. Everyone knew him. No one knew him. One evening, just as the sun was melting into the bay, I saw him, or at least, I think I did. A figure stood at the end of his dock. He wasn't looking at his beautiful house. He wasn't looking at his gardens. He was looking across the water, arms slightly stretched out, toward a tiny green light on the opposite shore. Later, I would learn what that light was. Later, I would learn who lit that was. But that night I just watched him, a silhouette made of longing. And I understood something. The richest house I'd ever seen belonged to the loneliest man I'd ever seen. Scene 2, my cousin Daisy. I wasn't completely alone on Long Island. My cousin Daisy lived across the bay in East Egg. East Egg was different, no flashy towers, no noisy orchestras. The houses there sat back and let you admire them, like they were tired of being admired but would allow it, just this once. Daisy's house was all white and breeze and money. Daisy herself was. How do I explain her to you? She was laughter at the edge of sadness. She was sunshine that didn't quite reach the floor. When she spoke, her voice had this musical quality, and later, someone said, and it was true, her voice was full of money. Not just coin and bills, but the promise of never worrying. Her husband, Tom Buchanan, was the opposite of music. He was a big, strong man from old money, the kind of man who entered a room like he owned the oxygen. He talked about polo, about cities, about civilization in a way that made you feel he wasn't talking to you, he was talking at you. There was also Jordan Baker, cool, elegant, a golfer with eyes that always looked like they were observing a case. Jordan didn't waste words, she saved them for things that mattered. We sat at dinner, servants moving silently, the curtains blowing in, Daisy laughing for no reason. It all felt effortless, and somehow tense at the same time, like we were all pretending to be happy in a painting. Then Gatsby's name came up. Jordan said lightly, "There's a man in West Egg. Gatsby. Your neighbor. He throws the wildest parties. Everyone goes." I said, "Everyone but me." Daisy smiled vaguely, but I watched her expression, And for the smallest moment, there was a flicker. A name from the past had walked into the room. Tom changed the subject. Daisy led him. That was the first time I realized, Daisy knew Gatsby before I ever met him. Scene 3, the first invitation. What you have to understand is, people didn't need invitations to Gatsby's house. They just went. Cars came from the city, full of women with feathers and men with too much cologne. They came to drink, to dance, to pretend prohibition didn't exist. His lawns became a stage, his house a glittering backdrop. An orchestra played jazz, not polite music, but the kind that makes you want to live too fast. I used to watch from my porch, half amused, half curious. Then one morning, a servant in a cream-colored uniform arrived at my door with a card. It said, "Mr. Gatsby would be delighted to have you at his little party tonight." A little party. That night I walked over. The place was alive. Lanterns hung in the trees like second moons. Waiters passed with cocktails. Women laughed that high summer laugh. Men stood telling dramatic stories about places they'd never been. Every second person was saying, "Have you seen Gatsby? Oh, Gatsby's wonderful. I heard Gatsby once." Nobody's actually seen him. The host was a rumor at his own party. I wandered through marble halls, past the bar, past the orchestra, past couples on terraces. And then I found myself sitting with a man about my age. We talked about the war. We talked about piloting. We talked like two strangers avoiding the crowd. At one point, I said, "Your host sure knows how to throw a party. I haven't even met him." The man smiled, a warm, rare smile. "I'm Gatsby," he said. Scene 4, meeting Gatsby. He didn't look like a gangster or a king. He looked carefully made. His hair was perfect, his suit a soft shade, his manner respectful. But under all that polish, there was something young, like a boy who still believed in grand gestures. "I'm afraid I'm not a very good host," he said. "I don't like to make a scene." Which was funny, because the whole house was a scene. "Your parties are famous," I said. "Are they?" He looked toward the water. "I'm glad you came, old sport." That phrase, old sport, he used it often. It sounded like something he picked up and tried on, along with the clothes, the house, the voice. As we talked, I noticed his attention kept slipping past me, past the party, toward the bay, as if he were waiting for someone to walk in who never did. Later that night, Jordan came to me with eyes full of secrets. "He wants something from you," she said. "What?" "He's in love," she said. "And you're related to the woman." "Daisy?" She nodded. "It was 5 years ago. And he's built all of this so she can see it." That's when I realized, Gatsby's parties weren't about fun. They were a signal. He was telling the world, and one woman, "Look at me now." Scene 5, Gatsby's past. Told to me, a few days later, Jordan told me the rest. We were sitting in a corner of Gatsby's garden, away from the champagne and saxophones. She said, he met her in Louisville. He was an officer. She was a girl in a white dress on a porch with warm evenings all around her. He fell faster than a man should fall. Did she love him? I asked. Yes. But not the way he loved her. He loved her like she was the sun. She loved him like he was summer. Then the war came. He had to go. She promised to wait. But Daisy, Jordan said, wasn't built for waiting. She was built for shining. Daisy married Tom. Wealthy, strong, established. And Gatsby decided to become the man Daisy should have married. He didn't just make money. He created a version of himself, the mansion, the car, the clothes, to match a memory. He wants to repeat the past, Jordan said, and I said the normal thing, you can't repeat the past. But later, Gatsby would look at me with blazing eyes and say, can't repeat the past? Why, of course you can, old sport. That was the size of his dream. Scene 6, the request. One morning, Gatsby invited me to lunch in the city. We drove in his enormous cream-colored car, the kind of car that says, I have nothing to hide and everything to show. He kept showing me things, a medal from the war, a photograph, as if he needed me to believe he was legitimate. After lunch, his voice changed. I'm going to ask you a big favor, old sport. I already knew. I want you to invite Daisy to your house for tea. And then I'll just drop by. He said it like a teenager. But I knew this was 5 years of longing in one sentence. I said yes. Why? Maybe curiosity. Maybe sympathy. Maybe I wanted, for once, to see a dream succeed. Scene 7, the tea I prepared like it were a royal visit. Flowers. Cakes. A clean tablecloth. My little West Egg house had never tried so hard. It rained. Daisy arrived first, all white and perfume and nervous smile. "Oh, Nick, this is adorable," she said. "I love little houses like this." She didn't know Gatsby was coming. Then there was a knock. Gatsby stood there, drenched, pale, eyes bright. For a moment, everything was awkward. Time had to rearrange itself. Two people with 5 years between them stood in my small room, pretending this was normal. Then they began to talk. And slowly, the room warmed. Daisy laughed again, the same laugh, like bells. Gatsby started to breathe. The rain even seemed to soften. I stepped out into the yard to give them space. When I came back, it was like watching a door open in him. He was glowing. He took us to his mansion, wanting to show Daisy everything, the rooms, the view, the shirts. He threw his imported shirts on the bed, linen, silk, soft colors, and Daisy began to cry. "They're such beautiful shirts," she said. But of course, she wasn't crying about shirts. She was crying because here was a man who had built an entire world for her. And she had chosen someone else. Scene 8, the illusion becomes real. From that day, Gatsby believed it was possible. He believed, we can erase the 5 years. We can pretend the marriage never happened. We can pick up where we left off. He told me, she never loved him, old sport. But I had seen Daisy's life. She had a child. A house. A name. A place in East Egg. She was not the girl on the porch anymore. What Gatsby loved was that girl, the version of Daisy suspended in time. Daisy, on the other hand, loved being loved. She loved that someone had made her their religion. But loving to be loved is not the same as being ready to burn your life down for it. Gatsby didn't see that. He only saw the green light. Scene 9, Tom finds out it was the hottest day of the summer when everything broke. We met at the Buchanans'. Tom could feel it, the shift, the way Daisy looked at Gatsby. Tom wasn't a faithful husband, but he was a possessive one. He could cheat, but no one could touch his wife. We decided, badly, to go into the city. In a suite at the Plaza Hotel, fans barely turning, sweat on everyone's brow, Tom said what he'd been waiting to say. "So, Mr. Gatsby, what are you trying to do here?" Gatsby answered plainly, "Your wife never loved you. She loves me." Tom laughed, meanly. "You think you can come here with your pink suits and your fancy car and take my wife?" Gatsby turned to Daisy, eyes burning. "Tell him, Daisy. Tell him you never loved him." This was the moment his whole life was built for. Daisy said, in a small voice, "I did love him. Once. But I loved you too. And that was it." Gatsby needed the past to be pure. He needed Daisy to have never loved Tom, but Daisy's heart was complicated. Divided. Human. His illusion cracked. Scene 10, the accident. The ride back was heavy with anger and hurt. Daisy drove Gatsby's big yellow car. Her hands were shaking. On the road, a woman, Myrtle Wilson, the mistress of Tom, ran out, thinking it was Tom's car. There was a cry. A terrible sound. Then silence. The car didn't stop. Later, we learned she was dead. George Wilson, her husband, was destroyed. All he knew was, a yellow car killed his wife. Tom told him it belonged to Gatsby. Scene 11, the price of the dream. That night, Gatsby hid near Daisy's house, watching through the dark, waiting. He believed Daisy would call. He believed she would choose him. He believed his loyalty, even taking the blame, would convince her. Inside, I saw Daisy and Tom sitting together. Not happy, but united. Two people made of the same carelessness. "Will she call?" he asked me. "I don't think so. I'll take the blame," he said. She was driving. But I'll say it was me. He was still protecting her. He was still protecting the illusion. In the morning, Daisy and Tom were gone. Scene 12, the killing of Gatsby. George Wilson, mad from grief, was told that the yellow car belonged to Gatsby and that Gatsby was the man involved with his wife. He came to Gatsby's house. Gatsby was in the pool, maybe for the first time that summer, trying to enjoy the house he'd built for a woman who had left. Wilson shot him. then shot himself. The house that had been full of music now had only the echo of gunfire. And just like that, the man who had filled the nights of Long Island with light was gone. Scene 13, no one came. I thought people would come. I thought the whole city would arrive in black, all the men who drank his liquor, all the women who laughed on his terraces. They didn't. No Daisy. No Tom. Hardly anyone. I called, I wrote, I begged, and I felt angrier with every refusal. Gatsby had built an illusion of belonging. But illusions don't attend funerals. In the end, it was mostly me. And his father, who came from far away, proud of the son who had dreamed so big. I kept thinking, so this is what happens to dreamers here. We use them, and then we forget them. Scene 14, what I learned from Gatsby after the funeral. I went down to the shore and looked at the green light across the bay, the same light Gatsby had reached toward. It hit me then, Gatsby was not a bad man. He was a faithful man, faithful to a dream that reality couldn't hold. He believed love could be recreated, exactly as it was. He believed money could buy back time. He believed Daisy was still the Daisy he left. But love doesn't live in the past. Love lives in the present. When we try to drag love backward, we turn it into a memory, and then we fall in love with the memory instead of the person. What killed Gatsby wasn't just a bullet. It was the refusal to accept that people change, that time closes doors, that some summers don't come back. That was the tragedy. Scene 15, my departure. I left New York. I couldn't stand the noise of people pretending. I couldn't stand the careless rich. I couldn't stand the idea that a man could pour his whole heart into the world and the world could say, thanks for the party, and walk away. On the train west, I thought about him, James Gatz, who became J. Gatsby, who built a palace for a girl who chose safety. And I thought about you, the person listening. If love asks you to erase yourself, it isn't love. If love needs 5 years of performance to notice you, it isn't love. If love is only real in your memory, it isn't love. It's longing. Gatsby reached toward a green light that never moved toward him. I don't want you to do the same. That was The Great Gatsby, Through My Eyes. If you enjoyed this English story, if you like learning English through cinematic, emotional storytelling, stay with me. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, tell me in the comments, which classic do you want me to retell next, but from a real, human point of view. Maybe Anna Karenina, maybe Wuthering Heights, maybe a modernized Romeo and Juliet in Istanbul or New York. This is Freestyle American English Stories, where English is not just grammar. It's feeling.